About a year and a half ago, I became a bubby. And this was a very meaningful, unexpectedly meaningful transition for me in my life. One of the great joys has been to watch my own child grow into the role of a parent. And I get to watch her playing with the babies like I did and singing some of those same little songs that I used to sing. And it's very gratifying. All of a sudden, I'm wise. I know how to make babies sleep through the night. I know what different diaper rashes mean. And I enjoy that. I was told by my mother, when she became a great-grandmother, that the most important thing I can actually do, though, for my grandchildren and for my daughter is not to bask in the glory, but to help her feel like a competent, a good mom, to give her the self-confidence. And that was a really important lesson for me. And of course, my mom was now incredibly wise. Transitions do not always go quite as simply and as smoothly and as enjoyably as what I've just described. But they are a natural part of life as a mortal being. This afternoon I want to talk with you about one of the dilemmas, a core dilemma that I think that presents to Jewish educators, and I'm going to talk about Jewish education broadly conceived. There's an enduring tension in Jewish education and in general education between two different paradigms, a concurrent set of commitments. Do we want to prepare students to navigate within society's expectations? Do we want to prepare them to challenge society's expectations? Do we want to emphasize tradition and continuity? Do we want to bring about renewal and redemption for our people? We want to do all of these things. We are committed to doing both, all, but there are times that they are in tension with one another. We have a concept of the Masorah, the received tradition, and the received wisdom, and we also have a commitment to chidush, to new insights, to making Judaism come alive for our students. We want to emphasize enduring values, and we want them to be able to apply them to contemporary challenges. In the first paradigm, the virtues that we emphasize are respect and reverence. In the second, idealism and responsibility, and a sense of efficacy. We want our students to feel like they can make a difference. The teacher instructs and guides, and the teacher elicits the opinions of the students. The authority of the past and the compelling demands of the future draw us in both directions. And I'm calling these two paradigms transmission and transformation. This is not news. We all have heard of these two. We are all familiar with these different kinds of modes of being as an educator, as a Jew. We hear the shofar of Sinai, and we hear the shofar of the Mashiach. And we're called to heed both of them. And sometimes they may pull us in different directions. But these are essential duties that are at the core of the Jewish educator. And this is the essential dilemma I want to discuss today with you. So what is identity? Is identity a set of values? Is it a dialogue among voices? I'm going to argue that identities are structured around certain small number of core tensions that really shape and define who we are and how we behave and how we act. As Jewish educators, then, I would say that the tension between these two paradigms is sort of at the core of our identity as educators. The assumption is that people who have a religious ideology that tends more towards honoring the transmission and the past and feel more commanded will probably take more of a transmission approach, and those who are on the more liberal end of things will take a more transformation approach. But actually, I have not found this to be true. My experience is that what we actually do when we teach and when we educate in the many ways in which we educate, the way we conduct ourselves, it has much more to do with our personalities than with our philosophies. I actually think that ideology is a convenient explanatory framework for dilemmas and tensions that we face but we would probably do better to move beyond it. We will usually tend in our daily responsibilities, I believe, to fall back on our experience, our skills, our anxieties, much more so than making a whole ideological analysis of each problem that presents itself in each situation. So back to the Jewish educator. I've seen educators of all stripes struggle with issues about control and authority in the classroom. How much critical thinking should there be in a Torah classroom? How do you instill Jewish values and commitment? I don't have an answer, but I do want to share a hunch. I believe the Jewish tradition gives us a key to approaching this dilemma. There's a text that says, V'chol banayich limudei Hashem v'rav shalom banayich. When all your children are learned of God, great will be the peace of your children. And our sages say, read not banayich, your children, but rather bonayich, your builders. I think this is a key to thinking about Jewish education. Not as children, as passive recipients, as beneficiaries, will the next generation come to truly love Torah, but rather with an active role. If they have to build for Judaism and for the Jewish community in order to feel connected to the past, not just the future. Great minds and great hearts must be bonim, builders, not only banim, children. It's about the renewal and vitality of our communal institutions, which we discuss so much and which we debate. The transmission model looks like the concentration of decision-making power in the hands of a few in an inner circle. It rewards loyalty over initiative, and it provides security and control. There's something very important about the role of transmission. We don't want everyone to make it up as they go along. We need continuity in our organizations too. But at the same time, if we stick with that paradigm, it comes at a cost, and it's the cost of responsive, nimble organizations. If we nurture leadership and initiative throughout our organizations, we will reward ideas and not people. This is a discussion about mentors and supervisors who believe that their and those could be us, who believe that our responsibility is the transmission of our wisdom and our accumulated experience, the vision of the right way to do things. And it makes me wonder, what would it look like if organizational leaders were held accountable for devolving power, distributing leadership, sharing the limelight and the credit, and rewarding the ideas, the good ideas, not the people? What would it look like if our major Jewish organizations were actually structured as incubators, rather than having to segment off that active, that transformative behavior into somewhere else? I think it comes down to a very basic question. Do we really believe that the next generation could come up with better answers than ours? Do we really think that they could find a better solution? And if so, what guidance do they need from us? What expertise do they need to acquire? And how much freedom do they need in order to fulfill their potential? So I want to say to you that I do not believe that the tension between transmission and transformation is an ideological one, a religious, philosophical one. Not that I deny that it's at the core of Jewish identity and it's too. But in our lives, as we think about generations come and generations go, this is something that we each struggle with in meaningful ways. But I also want to say that I think this tension is not going to be resolved. It shouldn't be resolved. There's not a right way and a wrong way. It's a driving energy. This energy is fundamental to our identities as we meet the authority of the past and the demands of the future. And the ambivalence and ambiguity are actually built into our sacred task as parents, as educators, as grandmothers, as supervisors and mentors, and in all the ways that we think about the future as it will be beyond ourselves, and we do and we should. This is a sacred endeavor, preparing the next generation to take their responsibility for community and covenant. I want to leave you with the thought and the questions about the balances that you find in these different areas of your lives.